So we're like, let's make a skit.
Day for it.
It's just kind of turned into what it is now.
Welcome to Inspired Unemployed!
I've seen a lot of your videos.
Your Instagram and TikTok feeds are getting a welcome refresh.
That took us from 10,000 to 35,000 in a day. Our whole life changed after that.
I remember getting the phone call, cover shoot for GQ.
Smuggling in their budgie smugglers for Australian boat.
Never thought it'd turn into this.
You Aussie sure are built different.
I tell you what's a great fucking marketing is day for it.
Walking around going, day for it. And then it just kind of took off and everyone was just saying it to us.
Our content is super relatable.
We kind of just wanted to make a product that we were super proud of, that was our own.
Better Beer has already generated sales of $10 million since launch.
I guess the hard work paid off because
I'm not generally a beer drinker, so this will be interesting. It's pretty decent. The Inspired Unemployed, Jack Steele and Falcon are a handful of Aussie internet personalities who have transcended into the mainstream. What was thought to only be possible with US creators such as Logan Paul launching Prime and Mr. Beast launching Feastables, the lads have too thrived in the product game, proving they're the trailblazers in Australia's growing creator economy. And I believe that I know the secret to their success. I hope to interview the comedy duo one day, even learn from them firsthand if my theory about their success is correct. Their story and the many years that got them to where they are now is truly special. So much so, other Aussies have tried to replicate what's been working for them. This is Denzel's 4 observations of the Australian creator economy. Number 1, rooted in comedy, most likely poking fun at Aussie culture. Number 2, quite crude and heavy in swearing. What the f***? Not my cup of tea. Number 3, everything is a copy of a copy. And this is a significant point to make. The Hamish and Andy podcast, which pre-existed the creator economy, created the segmented format of spliced together, pointless conversation, comedy bits. True fans will understand what I mean. The Inspired Unemployed podcast, exact same format. The same goes for the Tony and Ryan podcast, We Mean Well podcast, and every other Spotify original podcast featuring at least 2 Aussie hosts.
What an absolute honour and privilege it is to be a part of the Inspired Unemployed. The Reese Bros new podcast.
I don't care what anybody says. Furban films it first on YouTube, but the Inspired Unemployed will still get most of the credit for creating the short form format, 2 blokes creating skits. And if you like them, you'll also like Reese Bros, 2 blokes creating skits. Coop and Kylie, 2 blokes creating skits. What about Bailey and Charlie? You guessed it, 2 Sheilas creating skits. And let's not ignore the fact that Misfit Minds is a copy of Sammy, and Sammy is a copy of Prank Patrol. The point is, someone did it first. And number 4, it's not collaborative, but it's very individualistic. You don't see much crossover of 2 blokes now becoming 4 blokes creating skits, for instance. Or 2 blokes who create skits jumping on a Spotify original podcast, a completely different content format, breaking character, and showing the behind the scenes of their success, something I hope this podcast will be. They're all competing with each other within their niche, creating the exact same topical content, and to the general TikTok consuming masses, they're literally either 2 blokes creating skits that I find really funny, or those blokes from TikTok. They're kind of like Inspired Unemployed. Yeah, them. I like them. Whichever it is, they're unidentifiable creators lost in the For You algorithm.
You're not creating a depth of connection with your audience on TikTok and Instagram most of the time.
This is Sammy, who I'll give a more formal introduction to soon.
The Inspired Unemployed stood out because I feel they were able to transcend Instagram. They were able to get to a place where they got media attention, and they were able to get true fans through having their podcast as well. So like they had people on their TikTok, and then they're like, come over to our podcast, and then people spend more time with them, get to know them more, like them more and more. Then that creates the depth of connection, which then gets them to buy their product.
Better Beer.
Better Beer. Yeah, they've got Better Beer. Freaking insane. That's a massive brand. And such smart branding too, because people are buying Better Beer knowing it's not even from the Inspired Unemployed, because it's just good branding. Does it even have their name on it? No, it doesn't. But if you know the Inspired Unemployed, you'll buy it to support them. Really, really, really smart branding. So they've done multiple things in an unconventional route that's brought them to where they are now.
Your Instagram and TikTok feeds are getting a welcome refresh. And that's because of the rise of anti-influencers.
And I think of the Inspired Unemployed, they've really blown up and they're doing sort of deals around the world now. And they're kind of a different spin on the influencer. They're kind of taking the Mickey out of the influencer.
If I followed the inspired unemployed model of primarily creating skits because I saw it worked for them, then I would be an ingenuine creator, because that's not a magnification of who I already am and what I already enjoy. Listening to interviews with them, you can tell it originally wasn't some drunk conversation they had one night, watching TikTok skits, laughing and coming to the conclusion, oi, we should do that. No, they simply use video to magnify being themselves. And that's the solution to this copy of a copy cycle we call the Australian creator economy.
But I also think of someone like Josiah Hine, who recently has just kind of blown up on his Instagram account. He just was recently in Sydney doing a brand deal with Paramount Pictures. So he's been at the game a long time, and finally his account began to gain traction, and he's a Canadian living in Australia. So in terms of like, he's not Australian per se, but he's doing a lot of things and showing the Australian lifestyle to his audience. And Aussies love it, and Aussies love him for doing that. And also I think Canadians and Americans also value his stuff as well. So he's kind of got a really worldwide reach in the content that it's producing.
Another certain individual leading the shift in Australia's creator economy, and my primary guest for this episode.
Not at all, dude. No, money is not a driver for me at all. Like, I do everything from love.
Known on YouTube as Smile More with Sammy. Currently sitting on just over 1,000 subscribers, yet going all in on the mammoth video ideas early.
Quite possibly the happiest man in Australia, it must be said.
Hosting the country's biggest ever pillow fight.
I pass my video ideas off to heaps of friends, and then I get feedback on which ones they'd click on and which ones they're excited about. I get them to send me voice messages so I can hear their excitement.
As he is a true believer in YouTube as a platform.
This is the best way that I found to be doing something I love whilst also reaching as many people as possible. Why I'm doing this is I just want people to be happy. Like, that's the one thing. That is the one thing that came to my mind and that stuck with me as to why the heck I'm doing this. I just had this realization one day, and the sentence that came to me, I was speaking in an audio message, was, I just want people to feel as happy as I feel. And I thought, how can I do this? And then what it took was believing in myself enough to know that I can do it through something that I love consuming and that I love watching, I'm passionate about learning about. All it took was for me to believe in myself enough to know that I could do it through YouTube.
Australian creators have to realize they have a unique perspective on the world. They have a unique, even the way we talk, the way that we interact, mate, and, those kind of things, the words that we use. Definitely there's an edge there that can really blow up in other countries, and businesses and brands want to line up with people who have kind of attractive personalities. And you think about it like, I'm only going to be appealing to Australian, people, then that's a limiting belief. And I really feel like as you open up your mind in terms of, hey, this video I'm producing, this piece of content I'm producing, this can now go out to thousands of people. But like I said in the beginning, maintaining that integrity, maintaining that value that they have, and not kind of becoming that, the dirty word that we talked about, influencer.
I feel like the Australian creator economy is just missing this hint of authenticity. There needs to be more people being, like, when you can tell when someone's not being themselves. I can see right through people. And online, it's so easy to see when people are being copycats and are just like going on a trend for maybe some clout and a few extra views because it makes them feel good and hits their dopamine receptors. I feel like the Australian creator economy is missing authenticity. I feel like it's missing people that are passionate about making YouTube videos and telling compelling stories. Like, I know Laserbeam is a big Australian creator, but he makes gaming content. I know Cold Ones are a big Australian pair of creators, but they're just sitting in a room and talking, and they've got a podcast, and they just be funny in a room. So there's an art to it to an extent, but they're not thinking about telling a compelling story. Like, there's not really anyone that I've seen in the Australian creator space that has a focus on storytelling and hitting people at deep emotional points.
I would word it this way with the two people you mentioned, or the two creators, is I'm not learning more about the world through a Laserbeam or a Cold Ones.
Yeah.
But I'm learning more about a world through a Yes Theory.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're creators that are at that kind of style and format here in Australia.
That's right. Who else?
And it's hard to name.
Yeah.
But I think you're someone who's like, no, let's be more intentional to be in that space. Because you're right, it's about telling a compelling story. And I think part of what makes a compelling story is someone as the audience is, I'm going to learn something more about the world that I didn't know before.
What does love mean to you?
Love. Well, love is the most important thing in their life. If you haven't got love, you've got nothing.
Just an unbelievable amount of things that you have to do to actually be able to make a compelling YouTube video. And that's also why I love YouTube, man.
Yeah.
Just the effort that you have to go to is so worth the outcome.
This beer isn't a cash grab.
One of the hardest things to deal with is like navigating, not selling out, or like just brand deals. And we kind of just wanted to make a product that we were super proud of, that was our own.
The secret to their success is them being themselves. This is a passion project, which definitely is being themselves. Or in more simpler terms, authenticity. The secret to any creator's success, authenticity. Let's just say it's hard work being a creator. And the hard work is being consistent and never compromising who you are.
The people copying other people, I feel, are just doing it because they want the fame and the fortune. I feel that I could be really, really big on TikTok and Instagram if I wanted to be. But I don't want to be, because being a long form creator on YouTube is my dream.